prayer for Irma Lestari. Foreign Affairs Minister commends China's support of 5 points consensus agreed upon by ASEAN leaders to bring an end to crisis in Myanmar. Eyewitness footage shows official examining large metallic object washed up on a Japan beach. Hello and welcome to TVRI World Today, airing live with news from home and all around the world. I'm Audrey Utoyo. Let's start with our first report from home. Coordinating Minister for Human Development and Culture, Muhadjir Effendi, took the time to lead Muslim funeral prayer for Irma Lestari, one of the casualties of Turkey quake, before her body was sent back home.
The body of Irma arrived in Adana on Tuesday evening local time in Turkey. Minister Muhadjir then took the lead in Muslim prayer alongside disaster agency chief Suharyanto, Indonesian ambassador Lalu Muhammad Iqbal and other officials. Irma is one of the 2 deceased Indonesians sent back home following a massive earthquake that struck Turkey and Syria on February the 6th. The other casualties identified as Niwayan Supini, whose origin was from Bali and not of Muslim faith, and therefore not receiving Muslim prayer. Meantime, Minister Muhadjir, who recently arrived in Turkey, handed over humanitarian aid from Indonesia to Turkish government representative Murat Salim Esenli. The minister, who alongside his delegation brought 70 tons of supplies and medicines such as tetanus vaccines, underscored that the Indonesian government will continue providing assistance to Turkey, be it in manpower such as rescue team and emergency medical team, supplies or logistics equipment amid one of their worst humanitarian crises.
Finance Minister Sri Mulyani yesterday elaborated the source of funds for international humanitarian aid, such as those provided for Turkey and Syria, and explained that the government has set aside funds for such purposes.
In a press conference, the finance minister explained that international relief and other humanitarian assistance have been budgeted under the International Partnership Funds. For 2023, the government allocates 3.5 trillion rupees or $230.5 million for the International Partnership Funds. Some of those funds are being used to procure supplies, medicines, as well as the deployment of the rescue and emergency medical teams to Turkey. Earlier this week, the government released the 3rd batch of Indonesian aid to help quake survivors in Turkey and Syria. The Indonesian government has so far sent 4 aircraft for humanitarian mission to Turkey, bringing a total of 140 tons of food and other necessaries.
The Turkish government on Wednesday launched a temporary wage support scheme and banned layoffs as part of the measures to protect workers and businesses from the financial impact of the massive earthquakes that hit the south of the country earlier this month.
The moves are part of the Turkey's government's measures to minimize the economic impact of Turkey's deadly earthquakes that left tens of thousands of people dead. According to Turkish official gazette, employers whose workplaces were heavily or moderately damaged would benefit from the support to partially cover wages of workers whose hours had been cut. A ban of layoffs was also introduced in 10 quake-hit provinces covered by a state of emergency. Turkey Parliament imposed the state of emergency for 3 months on February 7, 2023, after a request by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Turkey government also offered support and imposed a layoff ban in 2020 in an attempt to mitigate the economic impact from COVID-19 pandemic.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan pledges to revive the area impacted by the massive earthquakes in Turkey within 1 year.
Speaking at a briefing, an earthquake hit southern Osmaniye province. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said a total of 70,000 village houses will be built to revive the earthquake area in Turkey. The reconstruction will be done in Kahramanmaraş, the worst hit city by the devastating earthquake on February 6th. President Erdogan said the government has mobilized all resources and means to carry out accommodation and subsistence services for the earthquake victims in 11 provinces in the country. He said within 1 year, the government plans to build nearly 200,000 permanent houses in 11 affected provinces and another 70,000 houses in villages. The groundbreaking is expected to start in March. The new buildings will be no taller than 3 or 4-story buildings.
Germany doubled humanitarian support for quake survivors and reconstruction efforts in Turkey, which was hit by a devastating earthquake more than 2 weeks ago.
German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock traveled to southern Turkey on Tuesday to visit areas destroyed by a massive quake earlier this month and to underscore aid for the survivors and rehabilitation projects. And the visit, Baerbock was accompanied by German Domestic Affairs Minister Nancy Faeser. The new help includes 33 million euros for Turkey and 17 million euros for Syria. The additional aid brought German supports to reach 108 million euros for Turkey and Syria, which were hit by deadly quake, killing some 46,000 people. Baerbock said Germany will also provide temporary visas for Turkish and Syrian quake survivors.
A total of 7,242 aftershocks have hit Turkey in the past half month since powerful earthquakes struck the southern part of the country on February 6, stated by the Turkish Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, or AFAD. According to AFAD, 41 of the aftershocks were between magnitude 5 and 6, while 450 such tremors were between magnitude 4 and 5. AFAD also stated that as of Tuesday, 42,310 people have died in Turkey since the first earthquake on February 6th. With no updates for days on the number of those killed in Syria, the combined death toll from the two countries surpassed 48,000. Turkey was hit by 2 devastating earthquakes on February 6th, the first with a magnitude of 7.7, followed by another one with a magnitude of 7.6 just hours later. Syria was also severely affected by the earthquakes. Following the earthquake on February 6, Turkey begins clearing rubble as the death toll exceeds 43,000. Suhavits Tadore, a TVRI World reporter, is already in Hatay province to give us the latest update. Go ahead, Suhavits.
Yes, Audrey, as of Thursday morning, local authorities announced that the death toll from the disaster that hit Turkey more than just 2 weeks ago has reached 43,556 people. And the quake also badly affecting neighboring Syria, leaving more than 5,800 dead. In total, the fatalities from both countries have surpassed 49,300 people, Audrey. And as the death toll from February 6th, 2023 earthquake disaster topped 43,000 in Turkey, UN development experts said that 1.5 million people have been made homeless in the south of the country, where at least 500,000 new homes would need to be built. Audrey, the Turkey authorities said that 180 18,000 buildings containing 412,000 units have either collapsed or are damaged, that they will need to be demolished. And in response to the catastrophic earthquakes that struck several provinces in southern Turkey, authorities have collaborated with experts and created a comprehensive reconstruction roadmap. And the Turkish government has announced its roadmap for the revival and reconstruction process after the devastating earthquakes that hit southern Turkey on February the 6th, 2023, affecting over 13 million people, Audrey. And previously, Audrey, Indonesian Coordinating Minister for Human Development and Cultural Affairs, Muhadjir Effendi, with his entourage, distributed humanitarian assistance to Turkish government. And last night, Coordinating Minister for Human Development and Cultural Affairs, Muhadjir Effendi, with his entourage, left Turkey, and they're currently on their way to Indonesia. And Minister Muhadjir Effendi revealed that the government of the Republic of Indonesia will continue its support, will continue humanitarian assistance for earthquake victims in Turkey until the post-earthquake rehabilitation and reconstruction phase. In the meantime, Audrey, that brings my report to an end. I'm Zulhafiz Tadore, and our camera person Danu Dirja, reporting live from Turkey. Back to you now, Audrey.
Thank you, Zulhafiz Tadore, for your report. Now let's go to our next news. The World Health Organization, or WHO, said it was taking advantage of a temporary easing of sanctions against Syria, designed to allow humanitarian aid to be more easily distributed in the war-torn country after deadly earthquakes.
Makes it urgent.
Rick Brennan, Regional Emergency Director of the Eastern Mediterranean region, gave a statement and a briefing that WHO was taking advantage of the opportunity provided by the suspension of sanctions to do some rapid procurement in order to revitalize Syria's shattered health services.
To take advantage of. WHO is moving very rapidly right now, together with our partners, to take advantage of this pause in the sanctions. We have already started ordering equipment and supplies, and we are working with UN partners on a collective approach to take advantage of the pause.
Brennan said WHO has already managed to send 4 planes into Syria to deliver medicines, consumables, and vaccines, but also X-ray machines and surgical equipment.
You're absolutely right. We not only need medicines and consumables and vaccines, we need vital equipment like X-ray machines, surgical equipment, and so on. So at the same time, we are doing a more detailed assessment of those needs, and we'll be moving very, very rapidly to do the procurement. Again, capitalizing on this important opportunity that we have. So, I'm confident that things are moving in the right directions. We've already had 4 airlifts, planes full of supplies and equipment come into Syria since the earthquake, and we will be moving into a situation where we'll be able to bring in that heavy equipment in the weeks and months ahead.
Around 4,525 deaths have been reported in northwest Syria, according to the United Nations. The area is controlled by insurgents at war with President Bashar al-Assad, which is complicating aid efforts. The UN Health Agency called on Syria's warring factions to see the earthquake as an opportunity to end the civil war for good.
Music teacher Mehmet Sahin played a partially damaged guitar at a tent city in Hatay province for young survivors of deadly earthquakes that hit Turkey, while rescuers in Turkey saved a cat from a severely damaged building in the southeastern city of Diyarbakir.
Mehmet Sahin found a guitar at the side of a demolished building while participating in search and rescue efforts. When he reached the owner through the neighbor, he was told that the guitar was no longer be needed. Sahin and other GRU volunteers organize various activities at the tent city every day to help children overcome the trauma of deadly earthquakes. Many children were left homeless by the massive tremor that struck Turkey and Syria on February the 6th. They have been learning to cope with what happened and with their ongoing anxiety. Meanwhile, a cat brought to a halt efforts to demolish a building that was severely damaged during the earthquake in southeastern city of Diyarbakir on Wednesday for the second time this week. When workers saw the cat in a damaged residential building, they halted demolition and called rescue services to take the cat out of the partially collapsed building. A video showed a rescuer holding the cat while descending from the building before it was placed into a cage and examined.
The recent devastating earthquakes in Turkey have taken a heavy toll on the cultural and historical landmarks, including a well-preserved castle with over 2,000 years of history in south-central Turkish city of Gaziantep.
In addition to the terrible loss of over 42,000 of lives and displacement of over 1 million people, the earthquakes devastating Turkey on February the 6th also caused severe damages to structures of immense cultural and historical significance. Among them is the Gaziantep Castle, a historical landmark that withstood multiple invasions. This ancient structure that dates back over 2,000 years ago was built by the Hittite Empire as an observation point.
Gaziantep Castle has a rich history in the region as it is built on a mound and is one of the few castles of its kind in Anatolia. Archaeological excavations of the mound reveal that its origins date back to 5600 BC.
The Gaziantep Castle had become a popular tourist site that attracted thousands of visitors a day before the deadly catastrophe over 2 weeks ago toppled its retaining walls and caused large cracks on the bastions. The Gaziantep municipality also hopes to restore the iconic historic castle.
Thank you for watching Focus Today. Let's go on to our next news. President Vladimir Putin stated in a video, Russia will continue to pay more attention to boosting its nuclear forces and will begin mass deliveries of Zircon sea-launched hypersonic missiles. In an address to mark Thursday's Defender of the Fatherland public holiday, President Vladimir Putin stated that Russia will continue to provide its armed forces with advanced equipment. President of Russia made his remarks 2 days after announcing Russia would suspend the New START treaty, its last remaining arms control agreement with Washington. The treaty limits each country's deployed nuclear warheads. He also added, for the first time, Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missiles will be deployed this year.
Продолжим серийное производство гиперзвуковых комплексов воздушного базирования.
Russia's UN representative told the General Assembly the West was ready to plunge the entire world into the abyss of war over its support of Ukraine. Marking 1 year of war, Ukraine and Russia lobbied countries at the United Nations on their respective positions during the conflict in front of the 193-member General Assembly. Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, said, the General Assembly, the West has ignored Russia's concern and continued bringing the military infrastructure of NATO closer and closer to its borders. He also added Moscow launched what it has called a special military operation on February 24 last year to ensure that safety and security of the country.
предупреждали.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said Ukraine was exercising its right to self-defense as enshrined in the UN Charter.
Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said Russia violated the UN Charter by becoming an aggressor. The General Assembly is set to adopt a draft resolution, likely on Thursday, defending the UN Charter and restoring peace in Ukraine.
Ukraine itself. What is clear is that the choice is clear. You either stand by UN Charter or you stand by those who violate it, and there is nothing in between. Saying in China, but in Europe.
By asking for nearly 3/4 of the General Assembly to vote in support of a resolution, Ukraine and its supporters hope to deepen Russia's diplomatic isolation and match or perhaps surpass the support given to multiple resolutions last year. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba added, "It's not about taking the side of Ukraine, it's about take the side of international law represented by the UN Charter."
Fighting remains fierce in eastern Ukraine. Britannia increased production of artillery shells to help Kyiv push back Russian forces. Meanwhile, Czechs have sent 89 tanks, hundreds of heavy machinery to Ukraine.
Defense Minister Ben Wallace said Britain has begun to warm up its production lines to replace weapons sent to Ukraine and increase production of artillery shells to try to help Kyiv push back Russian forces. He added Britain was in a good place to help Ukraine, but needed to sustain the provision of weapons. Meanwhile, over the past year, the Czech Republic has supplied hundreds of pieces of heavy military equipment to Ukraine, including 89 tanks, and will continue supporting efforts to aid Kyiv. According to the country's prime minister on Wednesday, February the 22nd, the Czech Republic has been one of Kyiv's earliest and strongest backers.
A major winter storm battered the northern plains and upper Midwest with high winds and heavy snow. The winter storm forcing hundreds of schools to close, grounding air travel and making road travel difficult in some U.S. areas. More than 50 million Americans were under winter weather advisories on Wednesday morning as the storm moved across a wide swath of the western and northern United States and into the east. Up to 2 feet of snow and winds of up to 60 miles or 97 kilometers an hour were expected in some spots during the day and into Thursday, the National Weather Service said. The storm wreaked havoc on morning air travel. Some 3,500 flights were delayed or canceled across the nation, according to FlightAware.com. Travelers in Chicago's O'Hare Airport faced delays and cancellations. The death toll in Madagascar from tropical cyclone Freddy has risen to 4, according to the government's National Office of Risk and Disasters. The storm moved west across the island nation toward mainland Africa. Freddy made landfall in southeastern Madagascar with gusts of up to 180 kilometers per hour, or 110 miles per hour, flooding the area and ripping roofs off houses. In a statement, the government's National Office of Risk and Disasters revised the death toll up to 4 from 1 earlier. The storm has displaced more than 11,000 people, flooded at least 2,200 houses, and destroyed almost 2,300 houses. After traversing Madagascar, Freddy could reappear in the Mozambique Channel, strengthening before making landfall in Mozambique and then potentially moving on to Zimbabwe. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said. A passenger captured on video the moment a landslide hit a road in Peru's Ayacucho. No injuries or deaths have been reported.
Video captured by bus passenger Shirley Mora Vilcatoma showed vehicles parked on the road as rocks fell, blocking the highway. Vehicles unable to cross the road and several people crossed the accident site by walking over the rocks to continue their journeys. Bus passenger Marcelina Palacios, who was on her way from Ica to Pausa, said others are walking but can't because her mother is elderly. Meanwhile, at the start of the month, local authorities reported a landslide triggered by heavy rains. It is evaluating the possibility of sending humanitarian aid by air, as the road that connected the mining sector of Sakosha was blocked due to landslides.
The Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency, or BMP, warned people to be vigilant against extreme weather in several regions in Indonesia, caused by rising Asian monsoon activities in the upcoming week.
BMKG forecasts that the extreme weather would fall upon several regions in Indonesia until February 28th. The agency said that there would be an increase in rainfall in a number of regions in Java, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Papua. Deputy of Meteorology at the BMKG, Guswanto, said that the phenomenon was caused by atmospheric conditions that intensively boosted the formation of rain cloud in the upcoming week. One of the atmospheric monsoon activities, which is indicated from Asia, a low tension center in Australia's western wall, and the wind circulation pattern that is formed around Indonesia. Guswanto also said that there was a potential of a cumulonimbus cloud formation with a maximum spatial coverage percentage between 50 and the next 7 days. This cloud formation is predicted to take place in South China Sea, Sulu Sea, Philippine Sea, and Pacific Ocean in the north of Papua Island.
And thank you for watching Focus Today. Let's move on to our next news. Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, Qin Gang, said China trusted Indonesia and other member countries in the Southeast Asian Nations Association, ASEAN, as an independent bloc in maintaining peace and stability in the region, including in the Asia-Pacific region.
After the 4th Indonesia-China Joint Commission for Bilateral Cooperation meeting in Jakarta, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Qin Gang, joined a press meeting with Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi. Qin Gang said that China hopes and believes that Indonesia and other ASEAN countries will focus on efforts to strengthen the peace, stability, and prosperity in the region, including in the Asia-Pacific region. Minister Qin is confident that Indonesia and ASEAN will make independent assessments and selections without any influences from any other parties or forces. On the occasion, the minister also declared to cooperate with ASEAN countries in maintaining peace in the Indo-Pacific by implementing China's Global Security Initiative, GSI, and ASEAN View on ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, or AOIP.
Foreign Affairs Minister Retno Marsudi comments China's support of the 5 points consensus agreed upon by ASEAN leaders to bring an end to the crisis in Myanmar.
Minister Retno on Wednesday received her Chinese counterpart Qin Gang in Jakarta. During the bilateral meeting, Minister Retno commended China's support on the 5-point consensus agreed upon by ASEAN leaders to bring an end to the Myanmar's crisis. As the current ASEAN's chair, Indonesia has been trying to encourage the military junta of Myanmar to implement the 5 points agreed upon in April 2021. The consensus calls for the termination of violence, dialogue with all stakeholders, appointment of special delegates to facilitate dialogue and mediation efforts, and provides humanitarian assistance for Myanmar. Myanmar's military junta, however, has so far been reluctant to fully implement the consensus.
President Joko Widodo recently expressed annoyance on government policies that had been unfavorable for the livelihood of Indonesia and its people. The president cited the export policy on bauxite ore.
Addressing the opening ceremony of the 17th Congress of the Muhammadiyah Youth Organization on Wednesday, President Joko Widodo said there had been something wrong with the management of the country's natural resources. The president cited that Indonesia had been accustomed to exporting raw materials for a long time, rather than converting them into value-added products or known with the term downstreaming. President Jokowi said many countries have managed to scale up their status into developed countries due to their ability to produce value-added products from their natural resources. Those products have strategic values and largely hunted by countries and big global companies. The head of state said he was annoyed with the fact that Indonesia had not imposed this downstreaming policy for years. The president cited the global solar panel market, which is controlled by China. He said China had managed to convert bauxite, which is an abundance in Indonesia, into fully value-added solar panel.
President Jokowi said the government plans to ban tin and copper export, the latest in a series of moves to boost the downstream processing industry. Indonesia banned nickel export in June 2022.
President Jokowi said the government plans to ban bauxite export in June this year, and the government will also ban tin and copper exports afterwards. President was making this remarks at the opening of Pemuda Muhammadiyah Congress at Dome Sports Center in Balikpapan, East Kalimantan. The president said that the government's move to ban nickel has been faced with opposition, and the European Union has taken legal actions against the government's move at the World Trade Organization. This will not stop Indonesia from banning other products. The administration of President Jokowi will not back down and will face any possible legal action at the WTO going forward. Indonesia's move to ban the export of raw materials should not be seen as a move to cut ties with the European Union. This could be seen as Indonesia remains open with the EU, yet the EU cannot dictate Indonesia to export the raw material without being processed in the domestic market.
President Joko Widodo has dissolved two state-owned firms, including Merpati Nusantara Airlines and Kertas Leches. Both companies were declared bankrupt by a court decision last year.
Indonesia has officially lost Merpati Nusantara, a state-owned pioneering airlines which serve the country's inter-island routes, and the second oldest paper mill, PT Kertas Leches. The dissolution of Merpati is ruled in a government regulation number 8, 2023, signed by President Jokowi on February the 20th. The airline has been declared bankrupt by a decision of the Surabaya Commercial Court in June last year. Meanwhile, PT Kertas Leches was dissolved as ruled in Government Regulation number 9, 2023, based on a decision of the Surabaya Commercial Court in September 2018.
Thank you for watching Focus Today. Now let's move on to our next news item. President Joko Widodo suggested Jakarta will become the city of business and tourism, while the future capital and East Kalimantan will serve governmental purposes.
7 kilometer ya
3A dan 3B.
President Joko Widodo said the population density and traffic congestion in Jakarta had forced his administration to move the capital city to North Penajam Pasir Regency in East Kalimantan. The president said that as a big country, Indonesia naturally should have two large cities separated by their functions. He cited Washington, D.C. and New York in the United States and Melbourne and Sydney in Australia as examples of city diversification. The head of state believes moving the capital city to another island will help equalize economy and welfare between regions. He said currently the island of Java contributes more than half of Indonesia's gross domestic products, despite the country being an archipelago with 17,000 islands. He added the idea of moving the capital city is not new, as founding President Sukarno had envisioned such move during the 1960s when he was planning to move the capital city from Jakarta to Palangkaraya, Central Kalimantan.
Pope Francis led Roman Catholics into the season of Lent at a traditional Ash Wednesday Mass, urging the faithful to use the time to put aside materialism and self-centeredness and help others.
Participants, including the Pope, had ashes sprinkled on their heads in the customary reminder of mortality during the service in the Basilica of Santa Sabina on Rome's Aventine Hill. The 86-year-old Pope said Christians should try to touch the sufferings of the poor, truly listen to those in need, and make sacrifices during the 40-day period leading to Easter Sunday, which falls on April 9th this year. Francis will mark the 10th anniversary of his election during Lent. An Argentine, he became the first pope from Latin America on March 13, 2013. And Mexican faithful on their way to work received on Wednesday ash cross markings on their foreheads outside a metro station in Mexico City to celebrate Ash Wednesday and mark the first day of Lent. People queued outside the busy Insurgentes metro station as a priest applied the ashes to the foreheads of the parishioners and blessed them. Getting the ash cross outside the station is quite helpful, said faithful Vianney Molina, who explained she didn't have enough time to go to Mass.
Eyewitness footage shows officials examining a large metallic object which washed up on a beach in Japan. A large metal sphere that washed up on a beach in Japan was filmed by an eyewitness on Wednesday. The object had been sealed off as officials were examining it. Local media reported that the object was not deemed to be a threat. Authorities can't say what it is yet, not even police or bomb squad sent to investigate. But what is known is that it's hollow and not a threat. Many suspected it to be a type of buoy. It had been found by a local who alerted police after noticing the unusual object on the shore. With less than 3 months to go before the coronation of Britain's King Charles III, a campaign is underway to recruit more people to ring the bells of the nation's churches in celebration.
Called Ring for the King, the campaign is trying to encourage more people to get involved ahead of the coronation on May 6th. Britain's BBC spoke to a group of experienced and brand new bell ringers as they practiced in Ipswich, in England's southeast on Wednesday.
We want to make sure that there are ringers for every church so that we can all ring out the ring for the King for the coronation. But some of our beginners here today learned because of the Queen's Jubilee and they wanted to be able to ring for that. And then a lot of them rang when the Queen died. So we've had this constant teaching of beginners right the way through since that original push.
Experienced bell ringer Janice Van Helvert said he wanted to join in as he shared Charles' passion for the environment. Occupational therapist Fiona Smith said she was excited at the prospect of bell ringing for the coronation, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The youngest in the group is Freya, 17, who is studying for her A-levels.
Maize husks, cassava peelings, coconut shells, and other organic waste are the untraditional raw materials of Roland Adjovi's charcoal business that he hopes will help slow the destruction of Benin's trees for cooking fuel.
He hopes it will help slow the destruction of Benin's trees for cooking fuel.
I saw a lot of trucks transporting charcoal made from wood, more than a dozen. I said, how come we are asked to fight against deforestation, but yet we have so many bags of wood and charcoal being transported to our cities? So that's what motivated me to start doing my own research since 2017.
Adjovi's business, called EcoSiwa, employs a small team to make briquettes of charcoal from agricultural waste. They collect, sort and dry the organic waste before burning it into a carbonized powder that is processed into briquettes.
It is 3 times more ecological than normal charcoal because it has a very, very high calorific value and allows your food to be cooked very quickly. And one thing special about this coal is that we can use the ash to fertilize the soil.
Over 60% of the world's charcoal is produced in Africa, where it is sourced mainly from forests and woodlands, driving forest degradation. That's according to a 2017 report by the United Nations Food Agency. In Benin, wood charcoal is the second main source of cooking fuel, and demand is rising. Scientists say innovative projects like EcoSiwa are needed to prevent further forest degradation and loss of biodiversity. Here is environmental scientist Pamphile Hounji.
It has the same shape as charcoal, but here the process does not contribute to deforestation. We don't need to cut trees in the forest. We don't need to destroy all the vegetation to reap the rewards. It is the agricultural debris that have already become useless that allow you to make this coal. Also, this coal does not give off much in terms of pollution. It's weak, totally weak. By contrast, you know that the other option upsets the environment. This does not really pollute the environment. It does not destroy.
Chinese astronauts turned the Tiangong space station into a temporary barbershop high above the Earth, with crew members scrubbing up their appearance and giving each other a tidy trim as they continue their 6-month mission. A video recording of the Shenzhou 15 crew having haircuts in orbit was released by the China Main Space Agency, CMSA, on its official WeChat account, with the footage soon going viral online and drawing numerous likes from viewers. The video showed astronauts Fei Chunlong and Zhang Lu teaming up to cut the hair of their colleague Deng Qingmin on Tuesday, which is the traditional Dragon Head Racing Day, or Long Taito Festival in Chinese, which falls on the second day of the second lunar month each year. New York artist Guy Stanley Filoche turned his pain into a celebration with his new series, Give Us Our Flowers. The purpose of the art is to recognize the strength and resilience of Black heroes and families.
The idea for the series came after the unexpected death of Philokay's longtime friend, collector, and lawyer, which he said rocked his world.
I can't forget where I'm from. I can't forget the beginnings when my work wasn't selling for $50,000 to $100,000. I have to remember those days where my work was just only $2,000. So 20 years of hard work and staying focused. I always have to make sure that when an opportunity for me to give back or step up, I have to step up.
After finishing, he realized there are a lot more people that deserve to be celebrated and given their flowers, including Tyree Nichols, who was killed by Memphis police in January. Philokay said painting Nichols was hard because he saw himself in him. Nichols was killed by officers with the Scorpion Unit, which was created in October 2021 to stem the robberies, assaults, and homicides in high-crime Memphis neighborhoods.
Starbucks has launched a new drink that mixes coffee with olive oil, offering it initially in Italy as an alternative to the more standard espresso or cappuccino.
The so-called oleato beverages are made with Arabica coffee, infused with a spoonful of Partana cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, Starbucks, the world's largest coffee chain, said in a statement. The price is between €4.5 and €6.5, depending on the size of the cup. Young drinkers at Starbucks' flagship coffee shop in central Milan gave the initiative a qualified approval. Stefania Batali, 22, said the coffee had a little too much oil for her tastes. Company founder Howard Schultz, who has said a trip to Milan in 1983 inspired him to export Italian drinking habits to the United States, described oleato as the next revolution in coffee.
Wakeboarders brave minus temperatures to complete ice obstacle course in northern Sweden. That's up in today's sports segment. The Indonesia U20 national football team will depart to Uzbekistan on Friday. The young Garuda will take part in the U20 Asia Cup tournament between March 1st and March 18.
Indonesia U20 team captain Arhan Fikri and the rest of the squad will head to Uzbekistan on Friday. The team will depart after taking part in the mini-tournament trial in Jakarta from February the 17th to February the 21st. The squad of coach Shin Tae-yong is included in Group A with the host Uzbekistan, Syria, and Iraq. The young Garuda will face Iraq on March the 1st at the opening match of the group. Coach Shin said at the Bung Karno Sport Complex on Tuesday night that his squad chose to head to Uzbekistan because they had a very limited time. Coach Shin's statement rebuffed the previous speculation, which said that he would center the squad's training in the Netherlands before heading to Tashkent, Uzbekistan.
Wakeboarders brave temperatures of minus 18 degrees Celsius to complete an ice obstacle course in northern Sweden.
Wakeboarders brave the icy temperatures of the Arctic Circle to complete an obstacle course made of ice and snow on Monday. Felix Georgi and Dominic Gers on Germany and Austrian Dominic Hörnler jumped over an igloo, rode over ice dominoes, and did aerial tricks to complete the custom-built course. The riders had to break the ice in the pool's water as the temperatures dropped to minus 18 degrees Celsius in Jokkmokk, Sweden.
President Joko Widodo suggested Jakarta will become the city of business and tourism, while the future capital in East Kalimantan will serve governmental purposes.
President Joko Widodo said the population density and traffic congestion in Jakarta had forced his administration to move the capital city to North Penajam Pasir Regency in East Kalimantan. The president said that as a big country, Indonesia naturally should have two large cities separated by their functions. He cited Washington, D.C. and New York in the United States and Melbourne and Sydney in Australia as examples of city diversification. The head of state believes moving the capital city to another island will help equalize economy and welfare between regions. He said currently the island of Java contributes more than half of Indonesia's gross domestic products, despite the country being an archipelago with 17,000 islands. He added the idea of moving the capital city is not new, as founding President Sukarno had envisioned such move during the 1960s when he was planning to move the capital city from Jakarta to Palangkaraya, Central Kalimantan.
Pope Francis led Roman Catholics into the season of Lent at a traditional Ash Wednesday Mass, urging the faithful to use this time to put aside materialism and self-centeredness and help others.
Participants, including the Pope, had ashes sprinkled on their heads in the customary reminder of mortality during the service in the Basilica of Santa Sabina on Rome's Aventine Hill. The 86-year-old Pope said Christians should try to touch the sufferings of the poor, truly listen to those in need, and make sacrifices during the 40-day period leading to Easter Sunday, which falls on April 9th this year. Francis will mark the 10th anniversary of his election during Lent. An Argentine, he became the first pope from Latin America on March 13, 2013. And Mexican faithful on their way to work received on Wednesday ash cross markings on their foreheads outside a metro station in Mexico City to celebrate Ash Wednesday and mark the first day of Lent. People queued outside the busy Insurgentes metro station as a priest applied the ashes to the foreheads of the parishioners and blessed them. Getting the ash cross outside the station is quite helpful, said faithful Vianney Molina, who explained she didn't have enough time to go to Mass.
With less than 3 months to go before the coronation of Britain's King Charles III, a campaign is underway to recruit more people to ring the bells of the nation's churches in celebration.
Called Ring for the King, the campaign is trying to encourage more people to get involved ahead of the coronation on May 6th. Britain's BBC spoke to a group of experienced and brand new bell ringers as they practiced in Ipswich, in England's southeast on Wednesday.
We want to make sure that there are ringers for every church so that we can all ring out for Ring for the King for the coronation. Some of our beginners here today learned because of the Queen's Jubilee and they wanted to be able to ring for that, and then a lot of them rang when the Queen died. So we've had this constant teaching of beginners right the way through since that original push.
Experienced bell ringer Janice Van Helvert said he wanted to join in as he shared Charles' passion for the environment. Occupational therapist Fiona Smith said she was excited at the prospect of bell ringing for the coronation, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The youngest in the group is Freya, 17, who is studying for her A-levels.
Maize husk, cassava peelings, coconut shells, and other organic waste are the untraditional raw materials of Roland Adjovi's charcoal business that he hopes will help slow the destruction of Benin's trees for cooking fuel.
Plant waste. Benin entrepreneur Roland Adjovi is using maize husks, cassava peelings, and coconut shells to create a more environmentally friendly charcoal. He hopes it will help slow the destruction of Benin's trees for cooking fuel.
I saw a lot of trucks transporting charcoal made from wood, more than a dozen.
Il passait par dizaines. Et je dis,
I said, how come we are asked to fight against deforestation, but yet we have so many bags of wood and charcoal being transported to our cities? So, that's what motivated me to start doing my own research since 2017.
Depuis 2017,
Adjovi's business, called EcoSiwa, employs a small team to make briquettes of charcoal from agricultural waste. They collect, sort, and dry the organic waste before burning it into a carbonized powder that is processed into briquettes.
It is 3 times more ecological than normal charcoal because it has a very, very high calorific value and allows your food to be cooked very quickly.
une cuisson très très rapide de vos aliments.
And one thing special about this coal is that we can use the ash to fertilize the soil.
Ce charbon-là, on peut fertiliser les sols.
Over 60% of the world's charcoal is produced in Africa, where it is sourced mainly from forests and woodlands, driving forest degradation. That's according to a 2017 report by the United Nations Food Agency. In Benin, wood charcoal is the second main source of cooking fuel, and demand is rising. Scientists say innovative projects like EcoSiwa are needed to prevent further forest degradation and loss of biodiversity. Here is environmental scientist Pamphile Haunji.
It has the same shape as charcoal, but here the process does not contribute to deforestation. We don't need to cut trees in the forest. We don't need to destroy all the vegetation to reap the rewards. It is the agricultural debris that have already become useless that allow you to make this coal. Also, this coal does not give off much in terms of pollution. It's weak, totally weak. By contrast, you know that the other option upsets the environment. This does not really pollute the environment. It does not destroy.
And that concludes today's edition of Focus Today. I'm Audrey Utoyo. Let's continue to comply with the health protocols to keep us and our loved ones safe. Stay healthy. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
Terdakwa kasus lahan sawit PT Duta Palma, Surya Darmadi alias Apeng, yang didakwa merugikan negara 78 triliun rupiah, mengeluh sakit jantung saat menjalani sidang vonis.
Partai Keadilan Sejahtera PKS resmi mendeklarasikan dukungan kepada Anies Baswedan sebagai bakal calon presiden pada pemilu 2024. Klik Indonesia Petang kami awali dengan informasi yang pertama. Saudara terdakwa kasus korupsi lahan sawit PT Duta Palma Surya Darmadi alias Apeng yang didakwa merugikan negara senilai 78 triliun rupiah menjalani sidang vonis di Pengadilan Tindak Pidana Korupsi Tipikor Jakarta hari ini. Namun di tengah sidang, Suri mengeluhkan sakit.
Majelis Hakim Pengadilan Tindak Pidana Korupsi Jakarta Pusat sempat menskor sidang terhadap terdakwa kasus korupsi alih fungsi lahan dan tindak pidana pencucian uang TPPU Surya Darmadi alias Apeng. Awalnya Majelis Hakim tengah membacakan fakta persidangan, namun Surya Darmadi tiba-tiba memotong penjelasan hakim. Majelis Hakim yang diketahui Fazal Henry kemudian bertanya kepada bos Duta Palma ini apakah ingin menskor persidangan atau tidak. Surya Darmadi mengiyakan pertanyaan hakim. Surya Darmadi lalu mengaku tidak kuat mendengar pertimbangan hukum dari hakim. Kendati demikian, Majelis Hakim memaparkan bahwa seharusnya ketika pembacaan putusan harus terus dilakukan. Namun karena kondisi Surya Darmadi kurang fit, pihaknya membolehkan jika persidangan ditunda sementara. Majelis Hakim kemudian menskor persidangan dan memulai kembali pada pukul 14.30 waktu Indonesia Barat. Sebelumnya pada sidang pembacaan tuntutan 6 Februari 2023 lalu, Surya Darmadi alias Apeng dituntut penjara seumur hidup dan denda 1 miliar rupiah. Surya Darmadi juga diwajibkan membayar uang pengganti 78,8 triliun rupiah.
Untuk mengetahui situasi terkini sidang vonis terdakwa Surya Darmadi alias Apeng, kita bergabung dengan Happy Huriman dari Pengadilan Tipikor Jakarta. Happy, selamat petang. Apakah sidang masih berlangsung hingga saat ini?
Ya, selamat petang Oki. Sidang vonis terhadap Surya Darmadi dalam perkara kasus penyerobotan lahan sawit oleh PT Duta Palma di Indragiri Hulu Riau sudah selesai sejak pukul 5 sore tadi, dan hasilnya Majelis Hakim Pengadilan Tipikor menjatuhkan vonis dalam vonisnya menyatakan bahwa Surya Darmadi terbukti secara sah dan meyakinkan melakukan korupsi dan tindak pidana pencucian uang sebagaimana dakwaan ke-1 primer dan dakwaan ke-3 primer. Sementara untuk dakwaan kedua jaksa penuntut umum ini dinyatakan tidak terbukti melakukan tindak pidana pencucian uang sehingga dibebaskan dari dakwaan tersebut. Jadi untuk TPPU-nya ada 2 dakwaan yang tidak terbukti, dinyatakan tidak terbukti adalah dakwaan kedua. Oke. Sehingga dari itu kemudian Majelis Hakim menjatuhkan vonis pidana penjara 15 tahun dan denda 1 miliar rupiah subsidiar 6 bulan kurungan. Dan selain itu juga Majelis Hakim memberikan pidana tambahan untuk pembayaran uang pengganti kerugian keuangan negara sebesar 2 triliun rupiah. Maksud kami 2,2 triliun rupiah serta membayar uang pengganti kerugian perekonomian negara sebesar 39,7 triliun rupiah. Dan ini paling lama harus dibayarkan 1 bulan setelah putusan hakim ini inkrah. Nantinya jika tidak dibayar, maka Kejaksaan Agung akan merampas dan menyita aset-aset aset dari Surya Darmadi. Dan jika dari perampasan aset tersebut masih belum mencukupi untuk sesuai dengan jumlah kerugian negara yang dibebankan itu, maka Surya Darmadi akan dijatuhi pidana tambahan selama 5 tahun penjara. Vonis majelis hakim ini lebih ringan, saudara, daripada tuntutan jaksa penuntut umum, karena pada tuntutannya jaksa menuntut agar Surya Darmadi dipidana seumur hidup dan denda 1 miliar rupiah. Namun karena alasan kemanusiaan, maka hakim menjatuhkan pidana yang lebih ringan dari tuntutan. Dan vonis ini kemudian ditanggapi oleh Direktur Penuntutan Jampitsus Kejaksaan Agung Hendro Dewanto yang mengatakan bahwa ini adalah vonis hakim yang fenomenal karena unsur kerugian negara sepenuhnya dibebankan secara mutlak kepada terdakwa, termasuk juga untuk menghitung kerusakan lingkungan dan multiplier efeknya dari kasus atau perbuatan Surya Darmadi ini. Kita akan simak keterangan Hendro Dewanto selengkapnya.
Kita dengarkan putusan majelis hakim yang fenomenal, khususnya terkait pembuktian unsur perekonomian negara, dan itu dibebankan secara mutlak kepada terdakwa yang meliputi kerugian kerusakan lingkungan, kerugian rumah tangga, dan multiplier efeknya terhadap petani. Ini penting sehingga ini bisa mendorong ke depan terkait usaha pemerintah untuk memperbaiki tata kelola industri sawit yang sekarang sedang dilakukan.
Oke, dan saudara, perlu kami tambahkan juga tadi salah satu hal yang meringankan yang menjadi pertimbangan majelis hakim adalah selain terdakwa sudah lanjut usia dan bersikap sopan selama persidangan, perusahaan atau PT Duta Palma ini telah melaksanakan CSR di wilayah sekitar kebun sawit, kemudian mempekerjakan 21.000 karyawan, dan PT Duta Palma dianggap cukup tertib dalam melakukan pembayaran pajak perusahaan senilai 700 miliar rupiah. Tadi menanggapi vonis hakim, Surya Darmadi dan tim kuasa hukumnya menyatakan sikap langsung untuk mengajukan banding, sementara jaksa penuntut umum menyatakan masih pikir-pikir. Demikian dapat kami informasikan, kembali ke Anda, Oki.
Terima kasih, Happy Guritman. Selamat petang.
Majelis Hakim Pengadilan Negeri Jakarta Selatan menjatuhkan vonis 10 bulan penjara dan denda 10 juta rupiah terhadap Arif Rahman Arifin, terdakwa kasus obstruction of justice atau perintangan penyidikan pembunuhan terhadap Brigadir Yosua. Vonis terhadap Arif Rahman lebih ringan dibandingkan tuntutan jaksa penuntut umum yang menuntut 1 tahun penjara.
Electronic Data Interchange.
Dalam sidang putusan kasus obstruction of justice atau perintangan penyidikan, Majelis Hakim berpendapat terdakwa Arif Rahman Arifin memiliki kesamaan niat dengan Verdi Sambo karena terdakwa melaksanakan perintah Verdi Sambo untuk menghapus dan merusak CCTV. Dalam sidang pembacaan putusan atau vonis di Pengadilan Negeri Jakarta Selatan pada Kamis 23 Februari 2023, Majelis Hakim menyatakan seharusnya berdasarkan pengalaman kerja terdakwa sebagai polisi, terdakwa Arif Rahman memiliki kemampuan menimbang hal baik atau tidak dan menolak perintah. Majelis Hakim menilai perbuatan terdakwa telah memenuhi unsur dengan sengaja merusak informasi elektronik milik publik dan melanggar pasal 48 Junto pasal 32 Undang-Undang Nomor 19 Tahun 2016 tentang informasi dan transaksi elektronik ITE Junto pasal 55 ayat 1 ke 1 KUHP. Majelis Hakim menjatuhkan vonis pidana penjara 10 bulan dan denda 10 juta rupiah subsidiar 3 bulan kurungan.
Dengan ketentuan terbukti secara sah dan meyakinkan bersalah melakukan tindak pidana dengan sengaja dan melawan hukum dengan cara apapun merusak suatu informasi elektronik milik publik yang dilakukan secara bersama-sama. Menjatuhkan pidana kepada terdakwa oleh karena itu dengan pidana penjara selama 10 bulan dan pidana denda sebesar 10 juta rupiah. Ya, dengan dibacakannya putusan ini maka perkara
putusan terhadap Arif Rahman Arifin lebih rendah dibandingkan tuntutan jaksa penuntut umum yang menuntut Arif dihukum dengan pidana 1 tahun penjara dan denda 10 juta rupiah subsidiar 3 bulan kurungan. Hal yang memberatkan yakni perbuatan terdakwa Arif Rahman Arifin bertentangan dengan asas profesionalisme sebagai anggota Kepolisian Republik Indonesia. Sementara yang meringankan yakni terdakwa belum pernah dipidana, bersikap sopan dan kooperatif sehingga pengungkapan penembakan Brigadir Yosua menjadi terang.
Mohon pengertian teman-teman media ya. Dan untuk
Sidang vonis terhadap Hendra Kurniawan dan Agus Nurpatria terdakwa perintangan penyidikan atau obstruction of justice diundur 27 Februari 2023. Majelis Hakim menyatakan berkas putusan kedua terdakwa belum siap sehingga sidang vonis harus ditunda.
Sidang pembacaan putusan vonis mantan Karopaminal Divisi Propam Polri Hendra Kurniawan dan mantan Kaden-A Ropaminal Agus Nurpatria Adi terkait kasus perusakan kamera pengawas atau CCTV yang membuat terhalanginya penyidikan kasus pembunuhan berencana terhadap Brigadir Yosua batal digelar hari ini 23 Februari 2023. Hakim menyatakan berkas putusan terhadap kedua terdakwa belum siap. Hakim memutuskan sidang pembacaan vonis ditunda dan akan digelar pada Senin 27 Februari 2023. Sebelumnya Hendra Kurniawan dan Agus Nurpatria dituntut pidana 3 tahun penjara dan denda 20 juta rupiah subsidiar 3 bulan kurungan. Dalam kasus ini, jaksa penuntut umum meyakini kedua terdakwa Hendra Kurniawan dan Agus Nurpatria terlibat perusakan CCTV yang membuat terhalanginya penyidikan kasus pembunuhan berencana terhadap Brigadir Yosua. Dalam persidangan terungkap Hendra Kurniawan memerintahkan bawahannya untuk memeriksa dan menghapus rekaman CCTV di sekitar rumah dinas Verdi Sambo di Duren 3, Jakarta Selatan. JPU menyebut Hendra Kurniawan memerintahkan Arif Rahman Arifin membuat laporan dugaan pelecehan seksual terhadap istri Verdi Sambo, Putri Chandrawati. Sementara JPU menilai Agus Nurpatria meminta Irfan Widianto mengamankan CCTV di Kompleks Polri Duren 3 tanpa ada surat perintah yang sah.
Presiden Joko Widodo meminta Mahkamah Agung untuk melakukan rotasi dan pengawasan terhadap para hakim. Upaya itu diharapkan agar para hakim dapat menjaga integritas dan terhindar dari praktik maklar kasus di pengadilan.
Fungsi disiplin dan evaluasi kinerja kepada
Presiden Joko Widodo menyatakan rotasi dan pengawasan hakim perlu dilakukan untuk menjaga profesionalitas, integritas, dan menjauhkan hakim dari praktik-praktik tidak terpuji seperti maklar kasus. Hal itu disampaikan Presiden Joko Widodo melalui tayangan video di sidang laporan tahunan Mahkamah Agung Republik Indonesia di Jakarta. Kepala negara mendorong Mahkamah Agung dapat melakukan kerjasama yang erat dengan Komisi Yudisial untuk menjaga dan menegakkan kehormatan, keluhuran martabat, dan perilaku hakim. Salah satunya dengan memperkuat sistem tracking dan evaluasi atas rekomendasi yang diberikan KY kepada MA. Presiden Joko Widodo juga menegaskan agar penjatuhan sanksi disiplin dan evaluasi kinerja kepada para hakim yang melanggar kode etik perlu ditegakkan.
Penjatuhan sanksi disiplin dan evaluasi kinerja kepada para hakim yang melanggar kode etik perlu terus ditegakkan. Rotasi dan pengawasan perlu terus dilakukan untuk menjaga profesionalitas, integritas, dan menjauhkan para hakim dari praktek-praktek yang tidak terpuji, seperti praktek makar kasus. Reward dan punishment juga diperlukan sesuai dengan prinsip meritokrasi.
Presiden Joko Widodo mengatakan tantangan Mahkamah Agung dan pengadilan-pengadilan di bawahnya semakin berat, terutama dalam respon harapan masyarakat untuk mendapatkan putusan hukum yang berkeadilan. Tantangan itu harus ditindaklanjuti dengan langkah perbaikan dan reformasi berkelanjutan.
Mahkamah Agung melakukan reformasi total pada sistem pengawasan dan pembinaan lembaganya. Hal ini menyusul adanya temuan dugaan tindak pidana korupsi oleh 2 orang hakim agung dan beberapa aparatur Mahkamah Agung.
Ketua Mahkamah Agung Syarifuddin menyampaikan permohonan maaf atas dugaan tindak pidana korupsi yang dilakukan 2 orang hakim agung dan beberapa aparatur Mahkamah Agung. Kasus tersebut memicu Mahkamah Agung untuk melakukan reformasi total dengan melakukan pembersihan dari oknum-oknum aparatur dan penataan kembali sistem pengawasan dan pembinaan. Hal ini disampaikan Ketua MA dalam laporan tahunan Mahkamah Agung 2022. MA melakukan reformasi di antaranya memberhentikan sementara Hakim Agung dan aparatur MA yang diduga terlibat tindak pidana sampai adanya putusan pengadilan yang berkekuatan hukum tetap. MA juga melakukan rotasi dan mutasi aparatur di lingkungan MA, khususnya yang terkait bidang penanganan perkara, guna memutus mata rantai yang terindikasi menjadi jalur untuk jual beli perkara.
Melakukan rotasi dan mutasi aparatur di lingkungan Mahkamah Agung, khususnya yang terkait dengan bidang penanganan perkara, untuk memutus mata rantai yang terindikasi menjadi jalur yang digunakan oleh para oknum untuk melakukan jual beli perkara.
Selain pada aspek integrasi aparatur, Mahkamah Agung melakukan integrasi sistem peradilan elektronik bagi semua institusi penegak hukum, yaitu kepolisian, kejaksaan, KPK, pengadilan, dan rutan, melalui aplikasi elektronik berkas pidana terpadu.
Saudara, Klik Indonesia Petang masih akan kembali selepas kumandang azan maghrib untuk wilayah DKI Jakarta dan sekitarnya. Berikut ini.
Aku mawar, seketika juga butuh skincare yang bikin kulit cerah dan glow. Ratu Brightening Bengkoang Series tampil lebih fresh. Ratu Brightening Bengkoang Series seketika jadi amazing.
Ada yang histeris, guys!
Bau terasi, bawang.
Ekonomi Power Liquid Serai baru. Setetes bersihkan semua bau sadis.
Swagger.
Ekonomi Power Liquid Serai. Bau sadis hilang, bersihnya gak ada lawan.
Punya 3 jenis dari wajah. Flek matahari, bekas jerawat, bintik hitam. Pond's Nipple Glow Serum dengan glutat, niacinamide dan vitamin C. Meresap ke dalam 20 lapisan kulit. Tuntas mengurangi 3 noda. Spotless glowing skin. Pond's Nipple Glow Serum.
Gaya dan hobi kita boleh beda. Mantapnya ABC Kopi Susu Gula Aren satukan semua. Baru dengan gula aren asli yang berpadu sempurna. Temani keseruan momennya. ABC Kopi Susu Gula Aren. Gula aren asli, mantap kopi susunya.
Demi mendapatkan sumber mata air terbaik, Le Mineral melakukan ratusan eksplorasi. Setiap tetesnya dikemas dengan galon yang selalu baru dan bebas BPA. Inilah komitmen Le Mineral untuk sehatnya keluarga.
Ni buat kamu Sedap Selection Singapore Spicy Laksa. Sedapnya
rich and creamy.
Cobain yang sedapnya Korea. 진짜 fresh. Korean cheeseburger. 니 favoritnya Korea. Cheesy and chewy noodle. Almost sedapnya. Juga ada
Yang hangatkan suasana.
Korean spicy soup. Das 맛있다. Sedap Selection. Dirty Wings Food.
Gaya dan hobi kita boleh beda. Mantapnya ABC Kopi Susu Gula Aren satukan semua. Baru dengan gula aren asli yang berpadu sempurna. Temani keseruan momennya. ABC Kopi Susu Gula Aren. Gula aren mantap kopi susunya.
Imun tubuh bisa turun saat aktivitas padat. Minum AMH. Dari jahe merah pilihan, habat Auda. Hangatnya jaga imun tubuh. AMH jahe merah setiap hari.
Ni buat kamu Sedap Selection Singapore Spicy Laksa. Sedapnya
rich and creamy.
cobain yang sedapnya Korea. 진짜 fresh. Korean cheeseburger. 니 favoritnya Korea. Cheesy and chewy noodle. Almost sedapnya. Juga ada
Yang hangatkan suasana.
Korean spicy soup. Das 맛있다. Sedap Selection. Dirty Wings Food.
Le Mineral beda banget. Lebih smooth, lebih segar.
Le Mineral memang berbeda, mengandung mineral esensial, dikemas menggunakan 3 proteksi berlapis.
Bikin badan lebih enteng.
Le Mineral.
Sejak 1972, PT Taiso telah memproduksi obat berkualitas. Quality control ketat, modern, dan higienis. Menghasilkan Tempra yang dipercaya dari generasi ke generasi.
Ingat, Mama.
Ingat Tempra. Sejak 1972, PT Taiso telah memproduksi obat berkualitas. Quality control ketat, modern, dan higienis. Menghasilkan tempra yang dipercaya dari generasi ke generasi.
Ingat Mama,
Ingat tempra.
imun tubuh bisa turun saat aktivitas padat. Minum AMH. Dari jahe merah pilihan, Habatus Sauda. Hangatnya, jaga imun tubuh. AMH jahe merah setiap hari. Warna Perfect Dry Creamy Foam dengan 4 times bright berries, kaya kandungan vitamin dan choline clay. Angkat minyak berlebih, segar bersihkan wajah, kulit cerah, sehat glowing. Very bright, ready to glow. Bye-bye minyak.
Gaya dan hobi kita boleh beda. Mantapnya ABC Kopi Susu Gula Aren satukan semua. Baru dengan gula aren asli yang berpadu sempurna. Temani keseruan momennya. ABC Kopi Susu Gula Aren. Gula aren asli, mantap kopi susunya.
Ketua Mahkamah Agung Syarifuddin menyatakan jumlah perkara yang diterima oleh Mahkamah Agung pada tahun 2022 mengalami kenaikan 46,33% dibandingkan perkara yang masuk di tahun 2021. Beban penyelesaian perkara pun meningkat drastis dibandingkan tahun sebelumnya. Namun jumlah hakim agung yang ada saat ini hanya 45 orang dari jumlah seharusnya menurut undang-undang yaitu 60 orang. Mahkamah Agung berhasil memutuskan perkara 28.024 perkara dari 28.284 beban perkara pada tahun 2022. Ketua Mahkamah Agung Syarifuddin mengatakan jumlah tersebut menjadi jumlah memutus tertinggi sepanjang berdirinya Mahkamah Agung.
Dengan adanya interkoneksi di antara institusi penegak hukum, maka pertukaran data dan 1% dari jumlah perkara yang diputus pada tahun 2021. Sekaligus menjadi jumlah dan prosentase memutus tertinggi sepanjang berdirinya Mahkamah Agung. Selanjutnya, mengenai jumlah perkara yang diminutasi dan di 7.817 perkara atau sebesar 99,26% dari total perkara yang diputus selama tahun 2022.
Selain itu, Mahkamah Agung juga terus melakukan optimalisasi kebijakan-kebijakan yang dapat mendorong percepatan penyelesaian perkara dengan nilai gugatan kecil, yakni melalui mekanisme gugatan sederhana.
Korban banjir bandang Kabupaten Pasaman, Sumatera Barat saat ini membutuhkan bantuan makanan pasca banjir yang menerjang ratusan rumah warga dan jembatan penghubung antar daerah. Informasi selengkapnya disampaikan Nahmah Majid dari Padang Panjang, Sumatera Barat. Nahmah, selamat petang. Apakah bantuan untuk para korban sudah didistribusikan hingga saat ini?
Baik, terima kasih Oki dan juga saudara. Dapat kami informasikan bahwa saat ini sejumlah korban banjir bandang masih terpantau berada di lokasi pengungsian mereka. Tentunya ini yang jauh dari bantaran Sungai Batang Tapa, Kabupaten Pasaman. Dan juga karena mereka masih khawatir akan potensi terjadinya banjir bandang susulan nantinya. Untuk saat ini BPBD masih bekerja sama dengan pemerintah daerah untuk melakukan pendataan kerusakan akibat banjir bandang ini, dan tercatat ternyata sebanyak ratusan rumah warga ini terendam banjir dan 6 diantaranya rumah warga ini mengalami rusak berat. Namun hingga saat ini masih terpantau belum ditemukannya korban jiwa akibat banjir bandang ini. Sementara itu saudara dan juga Oki, ribuan warga yang memang terisolir di 2 jorong, yaitu di jorong Kampung Tabe dan juga Buki Lintang ini masih belum bisa diakses karena diakibatkan putusnya jembatan utama penghubung 2 kanagarian ini yang diterjang oleh banjir bandang. Dan untuk saat ini direncanakan besoknya, informasi terakhir yang kami terima bahwa BPBD akan bekerja sama dengan TNI Polri, tokoh masyarakat dan juga masyarakat setempat ini untuk melakukan gotong royong pada keesokan harinya agar bisa membersihkan rumah mereka dari material lumpur dan juga ini membangun jembatan darurat nantinya agar Dan untuk informasi yang kami terima juga, Oki dan juga saudara, bahwa BPBD bersama Dinas Sosial ini sudah menyalurkan bantuan berupa makanan siap saji ke dua jorong ini, meskipun belum optimal begitu penyalurannya karena masih terhambat akses, tidak adanya jembatan darurat. Untuk itu BPBD masih tetap mengimbau warga setempat tetap waspada mengingat cuaca di Kabupaten Pasaman ini masih terbilang mendung dan juga masih intensitas hujan cukup tinggi. Demikian laporan dari Sumatera Barat. Oki, kembali ke studio.
Terima kasih, Namah Majid melaporkan dari Sumatera Barat. Selamat petang.
Dan saudara, rangkaian informasi seputar pemilihan umum kami hadirkan dalam segmen Menuju Pemilu 2024 berikut ini. Saudara, Partai Keadilan Sejahtera atau PKS resmi mendeklarasikan dukungan kepada Anies Baswedan sebagai bakal calon presiden yang akan didukung pada pemilihan presiden 2024. Saat ini PKS juga tengah menjajaki koalisi dengan Partai Nasdem dan Demokrat.
Presiden Partai Keadilan Sejahtera (PKS) Ahmad Syaiqo resmi mendeklarasikan partainya mendukung Anies Baswedan sebagai bakal calon presiden yang akan didukung di Pilpres 2024. Acara deklarasi digelar hari ini di kantor Dewan Pengurus Pusat DPP PKS dan dihadiri langsung oleh Anies Baswedan. Deklarasi juga dihadiri sejumlah petinggi PKS seperti Hidayat Nur Wahid, Sohibul Iman, dan Ketua Majelis Syuro Salim Segaf Al-Jufri. Keputusan mendukung Anies Baswedan sebagai capres di 2024 juga merupakan hasil keputusan musyawarah Majelis Syura 8 PKS. Presiden PKS menegaskan keputusan tersebut melalui proses musyawarah dan dibahas secara saksama oleh sejumlah pihak. Presiden PKS Ahmad Syaiqo menginstruksikan struktur anggota dan simpatisan PKS di seluruh Indonesia mengenal dan menyosialisasikan Anies Baswedan ke seluruh pelosok negeri sebagai baca pres yang diusung PKS. Saat ini PKS juga tengah menjajaki koalisi dengan Partai Nasdem dan Demokrat. Ketiga partai tersebut sedang merumuskan koalisi untuk menghadapi Pilpres 2024 mendatang. Ketiga partai pun sudah menyampaikan dukungan kepada Anies Baswedan. Namun hingga saat ini belum ada kesepakatan mengenal calon wakil presiden yang akan mendampingi Anies. Kendati demikian, sejumlah nama yang mencuat akan menjadi bakal cawapres Anies Baswedan adalah Ketua Umum Demokrat Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono dan kader PKS yang juga mantan Gubernur Jawa Barat Ahmad Heriawan. Ketiga partai masih terus melakukan komunikasi mengenai bakal cawapres yang mendampingi Anies.
Partai Keadilan Sejahtera memiliki 3 alasan mengusung Anies Baswedan sebagai calon presiden pada pemilu 2024. Salah satu alasan PKS mengusung Anies Baswedan yaitu karena Anies merupakan sosok yang nasionalis dan religius.
Presiden Partai Keadilan Sejahtera PKS Ahmad Syaiqo mengungkapkan 3 alasan partainya mendukung Anies Baswedan sebagai calon presiden capres di pemilihan presiden 2024. Ahmad Syaiqo mengungkapkan ada 3 parameter yang dimiliki Anies Baswedan hingga dinilai layak menjadi capres 2024. Pertama, Anies Baswedan merupakan sosok pemimpin yang memiliki karakter nasionalis religius. Presiden PKS menyatakan Anies memiliki darah biru dari kakeknya yang merupakan pahlawan nasional A.R. Baswedan. Ahmad Syaiqo berharap darah biru dari kakek Anies Baswedan sebagai pahlawan nasional akan menurun dan diwarisi Anies Rashid Baswedan. Alasan kedua, yaitu Anies merupakan sosok pemimpin yang bisa memadukan antara nilai-nilai nasionalisme dengan religiusitas menjadi satu kesatuan dan utuh serta tidak terpisahkan. Alasan ketiga, PKS memilih Anies sebagai capres 2024, yaitu karena Anies memiliki rekam jejak yang mumpuni dan menjadi simbol perubahan bagi kemajuan pembangunan.
Kami memandang bahwa 3 parameter yang menjadi guidance pada musyawarah Majelis Syuro yang ke-7 itu dimiliki oleh Bapak Anies Rashid Baswedan PhD. Yang pertama, Saudara Anies Rashid Baswedan adalah sosok pemimpin yang memiliki karakter nasionalis religius. Pergi berjalan ke Tanjung Pinang, berhenti sebentar memakan duren. 2024 insya Allah PKS menang. Insya Allah Anies Baswedan menjadi